All right, and welcome everyone to Business Bytes. My name's Peter Stone. I'm joined once again by a business partner in BizMojo, Andrea Anderson. Welcome, Andrea.
Woohoo!
And we're joined today by an incredibly talented expert panel today of Geeta, Matthew, and Chris. So firstly, a big thank you to everyone for joining us. We're going to kick off with Geeta. Geeta, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business and the role.
Okay, hi, I'm Geeta Hettiarati. So we operate a first-class accounts franchise in the western suburbs in Brisbane. So we're based in Middle Park, and we've been serving our clients now for 15 years. Started in 2004. Been through a couple of the storms that have been around, the GFC, the Queensland floods, the various other things happening in between, and now a nice little one in the last couple of months as well. Our focus is actually management accounting, which is working with business owners on the ground day to day with helping them with the decision making process as well. We do a bit of compliance work in the BAS agent space, help people with issues relating to their payrolls, their management accounts, their reports, even as a outsourced accounts department to some extent with some of our clients. But we like to help more with helping with the decision-making process to see the pros and cons of the day-to-day decisions people make. So that's our primary focus.
Right, and I mean, accounting at the moment and accountants in the moment, if you go to any sort of business forum groups or anything like that, a lot of people struggled with trying to do a whole lot of the job seeker stuff themselves. Yes. But like, accountants are worth their weight in gold. They always are. I'm biased, but how have you found the situation that everything sort of came?
It was quite an interesting few months. When this first happened, I kind of sat back and thought as to what was going to happen, and I thought that the best way I could help our clients was to help them in getting whatever assistance that they needed and that was available, and putting them in the right place to continue and get through initially thought was a 6 months process. If I was able to help them in some way to ride it through, I had achieved my goal in life. So I took it upon myself to learn about what was happening in the legislation side of things, and then to pretty much spoon feed every client along the way as to what their individual position was. Were they eligible for one or the other? What was the best way of doing it? How do we prioritize? So the clients who were getting cash refunds in their bank accounts, we worked through them first and made sure they got that cash to keep going, and basically held their hands right up through from middle of March through to end of last week, and got them through that process. So now we're looking at, I think that chapter is kind of close to some extent. It's ongoing, but the processes should now be in place. So if any business is eligible to get some assistance from the government and they haven't done it already, I think they're in a bit of strife. They're in a very different situation. That chapter is kind of come to a stand where systems and processes should be in place for them to continue to get the remaining assistance. I'm now looking at the next maybe 60 to 90 days to come, where restrictions are easing and people will get back to business, not exactly the way it was pre-COVID, but transitioning to what might become the new normal. So depending on what your business is, you might be operating in a different capacity to what you were before. Depending on which industry and how the restrictions impacted on them. So that's our focus now, to help them through getting used to the new norm, working out what's best, what's the best way of operating, how cost effective in terms of cost benefit, how are they placed? What kind of decisions do they need to make in terms of maybe pricing or capacity planning, cash flow forecasting, that sort of thing, before we really find out what the new normal is going to be. I think we're still in transition. We haven't seen exactly how we will be placed when we come out the other end, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Look, really good point. So, and you make a really good point that, you know, we did go through that first stage and just getting the support mechanisms in place, which is pretty much kind of to a degree is now done and dusted. And now it's just about how do we do business in this next section. And I guess it's a case by case basis in a sense, isn't it? Because every industry or business has different needs.
Yeah, every business will be different. We were discussing about different industries, different businesses the other day. Like if you were in a gym, for instance, they are a total shutdown. So their equipment is sitting there, probably paying for leases, probably paying for space, but no business at all. Whereas if you look at a restaurant, they went into a delivery and takeaway mode for a while. Now they can operate in a limited capacity, up to the 10 guests at a time. It might go through different stages before it gets to full capacity again. So how do people operate when costs are still there and costs are increasing? So you've got to bring back the staff slowly in a progressed way, and you have your revenue is limited to some extent. So how do we balance the costs and revenue? How do we keep the clients happy at the same time without disappointing clients, but at the same time ride through without getting into too much negative financial situation?
Yeah. And so if a client came to you and said, you know, we're in this situation, how do we get through? What are some of the types of questions, or what are some of the things generally business owners should be thinking about to be successful over these next sort of 30 to 90 days?
Well, looking at where we are now, especially having gone through a phase where we've been somewhat affected. I think most industries were somewhat affected. I think a good place to start would be to see what's your cost unit. How do you operate? What should you be measuring? So it might be per square meter or per machine that you have leased or hired, or might be bumps on seats if you are a restaurant type situation. Identify or if you are a service, professional service, it might be the hours that you work. So identify your unit and then see what the costs associated that unit is, and see how you can then operate, and grow progressively with managing your costs and then bringing in the revenue to slowly move from where you are now to a better position week by week, month by month. I think we can look forward to the next maybe 30 to 60 days to start with, and then slowly, gradually increase that. So you have to be very careful with your cash flow forecasting, know exactly where you are and what falls due. As people have negotiated lots of concessions along the way, those will slowly now start to take effect in another 3-4 months. You'll have bigger bills to pay than what you had 2 months ago. So I think there's a lot of need for planning and to think about all the factors that are associated in your business.
Yeah, really good advice there. And my background is I come from a family that is an accounting practice, so that's why, you know, maybe that's why we're kicking off first. But Geeta, how have you found the situation? Because pre-COVID, and this is sort of for all businesses out there was a certain sort of set of playing rules that everyone had sort of signed off on, and you'd sign contracts to do a certain amount of work for a certain amount of money for your clients, and then all of a sudden that rule book's kind of thrown out the window. And your phone's running almost 20, you know, it would be running 24 hours a day if possible, because there was so much information, and as you say, planning, cash flow, all those types of things. How have you gone dealing with the fact that you're actually busier in this time, because there's so much more understanding and work and planning and rejigging of businesses? How have you managed that like, because you had an existing relationship, but now you're doing a whole lot more work. How have you walked that tightrope with your clients?
That's a very delicate place to be. Yes, we had set tasks that we had undertaken to do. In most our cases, we have in place regular pre-agreed fee structures. So we negotiate with people and say, look, this is what we are going to be doing for you, and this is the stock standard fee structure that we're going to play with. But that that continued in the same way, because that work didn't disappear. What we were doing for people continued to happen. But at the same time, I think I must have done about 4 years worth of CPD in about 3 weeks, because things were changing all the time. And I guess to some extent we will, I took it upon myself to learn what was going on, be 100% sure of what the requirements and that businesses had to meet, so that we didn't kind of slip anywhere in terms of getting them into process. Because one of the things with JobKeeper was that you had to pay it up front and then get the money back. So if you paid the wrong person and that was not eligible, you're out of pocket. And so it had to be done fairly carefully. So I took that upon myself to do it. Now we can't do it all. We can't provide that service for nothing. It doesn't happen that way. So yes, most of our clients would have to pay a little bit extra this time. But at the same time, we are well aware of where each individual client is placed. Our client base they were affected to different degrees, and some of them were very adaptive. The people who were in the hospitality industry, yes, they were not able to run their dine-in services, but they expanded on their takeaway and delivery services, and mostly the takeaway, and went hammering at it. And some of them actually came out doing better than what they were before. In some extent, but we've also got like a couple in the retail that are affected. But so we've continued to give them the best we can. Sometimes it's also when you work with clients, some of our clients are fairly long-term clients. I've had my very first client still with me. I've got, I think, about 3 or 4 clients from 2005 still with me. So there is a certain amount of a relationship, and there's a certain amount of give and take with them. So we basically playing it to say, look, we were there for you when you needed, and that goodwill will continue into the future, and that's part of the package.
Yeah. And I guess for everyone, all the listeners on the call, a big shout out and a big thank you to all the accountants out there, including yourself, Geeta, because I rang my sister a lot during it as well, as we all did. So thank you so much for that and for kicking off the show, and we'll open things up for a group discussion a little bit later. And just before we let you go, if someone was interested in getting some accounting service or some accounting management advice through you, how would they get in contact with you?
You can contact us online. I've sent Andrea a little link, which opens which can be used as a contact with us, a short little questionnaire that people can fill out and submit to us.
All right, and I'll make sure that's in the show notes underneath on YouTube and on the blog as well. So thank you, Geeta, for now. And
you're welcome.
We'll move across to Ipswich. And Matthew, if you could please introduce yourself and explain your role, and we'll go from there.
No worries. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. My name's Matthew Mulroney. I'm the coordinator of grant management for Ipswich City Council. For those that don't know, Ipswich is in the western portion of Brisbane. I don't say the western suburbs because we are our own little city. We're a city of 200 and, I don't know what we're up to now, 220 odd thousand, I suppose, something like that. Fastest growing area well, one of the fastest in Australia. So as I said, I'm a coordinator of grant management. So unlike a lot of your guests, I'm a little bit different. I don't have very much at all to do with the public. I am a function of council, and I look after council's grant portfolio. But what that means is that I also I have a skill set that I'm able to share with some people, which I have done with Andrea over the last few months, doing some different webinars, helping people in navigating the grants world. Where to go to find grants, how to apply, things like that.
Yeah, and so can you explain a little bit about how council is operating during this time, and then we'll get stuck into some grants questions. Yeah,
no worries. So, councils, like a lot of businesses, have basically where business as usual as it can be, considering that very few of our staff can be in the office. We all packed up our stuff and are working from home, all connecting via video means like this, video meetings, Skype calls, things like that. And it's been a really interesting time. If you'd said to me 6 months ago that everyone would be sitting at home and working independently, I would have laughed at you. But it happened and it works. And dare I say, I think it's worked better than anyone ever imagined. I think overall, particularly in my team, our outputs, if anything, have increased instead of decreased. We've become more adaptive. We're learning new techniques, and we're just getting the job done. Yeah,
that's fantastic news, and it's interesting, isn't it? Like, we are an adaptive species, and everyone's just sort of taken on board, and we're all just working together to make the most out of every day and every situation. So in terms of the grants process, are there things that are available for small business at the moment, or can you talk us through and share some of your knowledge out there?
Yeah, no worries. So one of the things that the council we were working on anyway, but fast-tracked because of the COVID-19, as part of the COVID-19 response, was the Ipswich Grants Finder. Now, based on a company out of Bendigo called Grants Guru. They provide the service for Ipswich. It's a free service that provides not only commercial but also not-for-profit grant information. So Andrea, I don't know if you've got the link, but I'll send it to you anyway. It is ipswich.grantsguru.org.au, I think it is, but I'll send that through to you in a minute. And it's a free service. It's a database portal that people can go into. Registration is encouraged but not essential. Benefits of registration is you can get updates sent through to you on a regular basis about any changes. But it gives a very brief outline of categories of grant funding that is available, and in this case to small, medium and large business. In particular, the COVID-19 response type grants, like the small business adaptation grants that were out last week, that I think closed a lot faster than anyone ever expected them to as well. 10,000 grant applications in 7 days, or 5 days in fact.
Yeah, I think it was 5 days actually.
It was 5 days. It was Friday night it closed.
Wow.
Yeah, I was watching it on Friday. I was helping out a friend who has a business, and we were ticking away at a grant, and I kept on watching the percentage creep up, and hopefully we got ours in time, but I just don't know at the moment.
Well, I estimated there, Matthew, that there was approximately 100, and the calculations I did was that there was 120 to 140,000 eligible businesses in Queensland, just based on the numbers. And so I keep saying to people, look, you've got a 1 in 12, 1 in 13 chance. It's better than lotto.
Oh, yeah. Oh, certainly. Certainly.
Yeah.
And that particular program was a fairly easy one to do. It was all about your response and offsetting the costs of your adaptation to the COVID-19 situation. Which I don't think there's hardly a business out there that could say they haven't had costs associated with the adaptation. So that's the Ipswich Grant Finder. It is available. It's out there. As I said, it's free. And look, it's available to anyone. It would be perfectly honest. Anyone in Australia can go there. But it has certainly got an Ipswich flavour to it. We have geocoded some of the stuff so that it does come back, and it will give you a higher results for Ipswich related grants or grants that are related to businesses or organisations in the Ipswich region.
Yeah, and outside of, I guess, the COVID situation, like, what can you give us an overview of the kind of grants programs that are available throughout the course of a calendar year and that type of thing?
Look, it would actually curl your hair to if you knew how many grants are out there for business, again, small, medium, and large, particularly in the innovation area, research and development, all that sort of thing, and also going into training, reskilling or skilling up your staff. These are all the sorts of grants that are available every day. Every day they're there. Billions of dollars a year available across Australia, just from government grants to do with your business. Not including taking into account some of those philanthropic organisations that also have them there. That's a hard one to say on a Monday morning, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, there are billions of dollars available all the time for businesses. That is just there for the picking.
Yeah, and so that link that you gave us, if you're a small business Australia-wide or especially in the Ipswich area,
yes,
if you registered to there, do they just feed through all the different grants that are popping up?
Essentially, you go through and you put your information in and you set up some favourite lists, which for businesses can be either on industry sector or a category. Most businesses go to an industry sector, so you would select food and beverage, for example. If you're a food and beverage business, you'd select the food and beverage industry sector. Then any grants in that come up on the food and beverage sector would get emailed out to you as an alert, which I think is an absolutely fantastic idea. The whole reason the Ipswich Grant Finder came about, I'll be honest, was a very selfish thing. I wanted it for my own work within council. It's a tool that I use myself for finding the grants for council. The grants for council, obviously, we're not competing with all the other businesses out there. They are council-specific grants. We only compete with the other councils. But yeah, I wanted to use it myself, and one of the benefits of me getting the tool was that I could share it with the rest of the community.
Just on that note, you can search over 1,038 grants right now worth $172 billion inside the Ipswich Grant Finder.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't do two things at once, so I couldn't look that up at the same time. I'm glad
and I've
you
already
did that.
and I've already registered.
Oh, well done. Well done. Yeah, it's mind-boggling how much money is out there. How much was it again? How many?
1,038 grants worth $172 billion, and that's just within your region.
Yeah.
But if you actually have a look at Grant Guru, because Grant Guru is one of my faves as well. There's over 4,312 grants with an estimated. I was just on there. 2 seconds. Bear with me, please, caller. With an estimated $184.2 billion. 4,300 across Australia.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It's staggering, really.
It is.
And look, it's another shout out to, I guess, the government and how well they've responded to all of this and the support mechanisms they've put in place. And on top of that, a huge shout out and a big thank you, Matthew, because I'm sure you've been in the front line on all of this and helping out as many people as you can be.
So, Peter, I think the important thing to say though with grants, and I've got to put this in there, is that they're not the easy way out. Don't do what a lot of people do. They tend to fail by trolling through the grant site and finding something they want and then designing their business to meet that. It's not the right way to go. You need to be strategic in the way you're doing it. And if you have your business plan, something that does work, then go looking for something that matches yours. Don't go the other way around. And the other thing is, do your research. If it's one of these things that's a little bit, maybe it fits the guidelines, maybe we fit the rules. Don't do it. It's just not worth it. You end up wasting your time. It takes a lot longer in meetings and things like that. It's either yes or no, not oh maybe if we say this. So that's my two big hints.
That's really good advice. So basically, what you're saying is, if there's a checklist, you need to tick everyone off sort
box.
of 100%, and you go,
Yep.
oh my god, what a gift that is, because we can apply for that.
That's right.
And we're ready to go.
That's right.
Yeah, that's really some really good advice out there. So look, Matthew, thank you for sharing what the Ipswich Council is up to at the moment.
Pleasure.
And the amazing, I guess, opportunity that's out there for small business to get funding through, not necessarily just you, but like Australia-wide. And you know, for all the listeners on the call and those who'll be listening to this after the call, a huge thank you to Council for all the work that you've been doing. And you know, I mean, it is reassuring to know that, you know, life goes on and everything's still ticking along, and it's through the great work of Council and government. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was just going to say there too, Pete, if anything, actually, it's quite pleasing to know that councils are still operating status quo, right? Because it does create, I guess, just an element of, okay, you know, the sky hasn't fallen out. You know, council is still operating. There's still an element of government administration going on, and I think that's real. Yeah. I think that's real positive on the.
There is a lot of work happening, and a lot of really innovative work happening that I think is fantastic. And Ipswich aren't the only ones doing it. The councils right across Australia are doing it, and are really starting to think about the ways they can deliver services online. Which we might get time to talk about it a little bit later, but it's amazing the work that's being done.
We're definitely going to take that up, because we were chatting before the call for the listeners who weren't there, and we're having a great conversation. So we'll revisit that, Matthew, because I'm keen to find out how Council and also Geeta, how, you know, we're reusing technology given the situation, and we'll definitely touch back on that. So thank you, Matthew, for now, and we're going to jump across to Chris and dive into the real estate world. What is happening out there, Chris? Can you please just, I guess, firstly introduce yourself? Oh, there we go.
Backwards, but NGU Real Estate Platinum, just over here in the western suburbs. So myself and Helen Saba run this office.
Fantastic.
Centenary based, born and bred.
Yeah, nice. And so, I mean, you know, we hear things in the news about real estate and things like that, but a lot of that's clickbaity kind of grabbing headlines. What is the situation out there? How are you finding things, and what's going on?
Yep. So I've got a risk management background, and Helen, she's got a well-researched background as well. And so we're about facts and figures, information, data, rather than the hype on a current affair or whatever it is, you know. So for us, what we've been able to evidence is, I guess, the activity. So through property appraisals generated in RP data, it's been down. The generation of mortgage documentation and calculations in RP data was down, and this has been the trend in the last 3 months, just over. But the sales results hasn't been down. They haven't been down. They've maintained in regards to prices. Activity down, but not the actual market, we'll say. So the confidence of the buyers stepping back in the water since the restrictions. If we looked online, if I had a report, I'd actually show you. Every time there was a positive message sent out into the media from Anastasia Palisade, for example, there was a spike in the inquiry. It was really quite interesting to see. So then, okay, cool. It's safe to investigate. In line with obviously the open homes being released back into normality the last 3 weeks. That's been a big trigger for the market to say, hey, it's okay to go back into look at buying a house. So when those are the things that give the confidence back to the community to get back into the normal cycle. The resistance on some sellers at the moment is still there till that next release in June. For me, I've got sellers waiting, the want tos, not the need tos. Let's wait until we see more signal and confirmation that it is a good market right now before we step out and take that, make that commitment, invest in marketing, and they go down that process.
Yeah, Yeah, so can you explain to the listeners out there, like what would be some of the triggers to put those people that are waiting,
Yep.
to kind of put them at some more ease?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it goes back to the activity. So in most areas, and we've got quite a wide demographic that we actually do cover for platinum. We list and sell, concentrating in Centenary, but going into Indooroopilly, I've got a lot of stock there. We've got a lot more further out south. So the activity, the people inquiring and actually stepping out to the open homes has been quite strong. Now, they're the real good confidence indicators that I report back to my more apprehensive sellers who haven't yet jumped on the market to go, hey, by the way, this is what I'm feeling right now and seeing right now. Here's the evidence. I'm actually sending for a contract 1 pages with the offer figures on it to those sellers in those same markets, going, hey, these are the offers that are coming in hot right now as evidence. It's for me, it's information, it's data, it's facts. It's not trying to sell a story. But it's not trying to push someone in the wrong direction as well, because everyone has their right to feel how they want to feel right now for their own reasons. We don't know. Everyone, including children, have been through stress right now. And so we need to, I think for us, it's really important to really understand that very well, to be able to navigate someone the right way, rather than push them onto the market because we're desperate for a commission. We stink of commission breath, and it comes out the complete wrong way. You know what I mean? That's
no, really good advice. So essentially what you're saying there, it's business as usual in an unusual environment, but it comes down to being sensitive to the seller.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Look, we went through the hub open homes, only a couple through. Then we're now at 10 open homes. We have to signage. We have to have the sanitizer. We had private inspections before that, which is great because we had qualified buyers, serious buyers. We were making inspections left, right, and centre. There was an agent I follow in Melbourne who had sent me his calendar, and he had 30 inspections for one afternoon, private inspections, because he couldn't do open homes, about a month ago. So we're adapting, just like everywhere else. I think it's just being conscious of the guidelines. There's the COVID guidelines, requirements training that is out for everyone. So I think in service-based industries and essential services, that we should have those guys, do that course, have your plaque up, saying I've done this, even at the open homes, to show that we're adhering to what the government's recommending.
And can you just can you just spell out for like a potential person out there who's thinking, oh, well, actually, I've been waiting to sell my home. What would be sort of the processes and how things change?
Sure. I don't like, in my head, this is a real sales line, but there's no time like now, because the market it's supply demand. So right now there's low stock. The buyers they're frothing right now. And what does that mean? They've been in cages. They've been sitting on real.com on the apps, and not being able to get out the door to actually go and buy, make that change. So now that the government's been great in supporting the people who have had a little bit of financial difficulties. That's great. And there's a lot of the industry, a lot of the communities haven't been affected. Honestly, they're because the government supported, and the businesses have been really quite, we'll say, not impacted. A lot of businesses. So for them, it's BAU. So what does that mean? They're ready to make that step. So it's kind of holding back the stampede at the gate. The gate's been open, and the market's really quite busy. So the supply that we have in some areas, like in Dutton Park, I've got a piece of stock. It's the only one of 2 properties in Dutton Park, houses on the market, as of the last check. That's insane. This is within 5 k's from the city. Jump on right now. That would be my advice. And the process is really quite, it's real beneficial right now, because portals like realestate.com, and I hate to drop names, but they're actually paying for a client to go on the market and be re-advertised. That client has to invest, but to re-advertise and go back on what's called Premier, back on the top, they're paying for that. That can be in some areas 1,100 for a client. So you got big organizations actually being, we'll say, being very, I'll be careful what I say, but giving back to the sellers. And that's really great. And that won't be available for much longer, so those things are relevant to the current market, the current conditions of what we've been through, and grab it while you can, if you are considering making that step.
And so it's hard to have a crystal ball, and there's been so many conversations that we would have all had over the last 3 months where we're trying to predict the future.
Yep.
But I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Yep.
How do you see things playing out over the next sort of short term in the real estate game?
Oh, that's a brilliant question, because it's even more unknown than anything. So I love it. But we do know it's going to go one or two ways, I feel. So I've got clients who put 3 properties on the market because he wants to be in a prime position to be able to jump on the low end stock, low hanging fruit in the next 6 months. So he wasn't going to traditionally sell these properties, but I've launched 3 properties in the last 2 weeks of his. That's putting him in position for what he feels to be able to jump on opportunistic property. Now that's one way. The other way is it's going to continue to be strong, and the way it has been all year. We haven't gone down, and we haven't since it was about a week after the election, the federal election. It was over a year ago. It has been a great market across Australia, and hands down, look at the evidence. Pre-election issues for about 12 months has always put a strain on and I experienced that for the first time for myself in real estate. I didn't know it. I didn't want to believe it, but then I went through it and I was like, wow, that's intense. I didn't know we cared so much about that, the politics side of things, but it's the way we are. Straight up, a week after the election till pre-COVID, it's been steady and strong of increase. So I've given you a very political response there. It could go either way.
Well, look, and that's good advice, really.
We only know now. Know now. Just like
I
think what Gita and Matthew are talking about. We know what we're dealing with right now.
Yep. So if someone's thinking about it, there's obviously it's a bit of a buy. Is it a seller's market at the moment because there's not a lot of stock? Is that how you describe it?
Someone's thinking about it, there's my phone number. No.
There we go. Yeah.
Shameless plug. No. Yeah. Look, I think do your research. Do your research. Make sure. Yep.
Just on that, let's break it down. So if you say do your research, is that going onto the big sort of sites that are like real estate and have a look what's being sold at the moment?
I guess it's a great time to make that step. Now make it for the right reasons. So don't think that you're going to get in the market and make $100,000 because there's low stock. Yep. If you want to, the market might deliver a fantastic result, but make it for the right reasons. If you want to upgrade or downsize or make a shift, that now is better time than anything. Great, but make sure that you're selling before you're buying. So you're validating what you're getting on your sale price to be able to make the right informed decision for your next step. You don't want to be out of pocket and then be in a worse position because you had to buy something straight away and suffer. If you're going to make an interstate or cross suburb change, think about renting if you haven't got a family. Think about renting in that area first to really understand it first. So sell, then rent for 6 months because we've got uncertainty, right? At the moment, there's the weight, the strengths are on the sellers. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with all the guys. There's a lot of, regulations and recommendations come through for tenants right now, and they've got a lot of control, a lot of power in that environment, which is really different to what it was before, which is in their benefit. So think about maybe renting in some new area if you're changing, making that type of change to get familiar with it and before committing.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Because the finance side of that is, hey, what if there is a crash, for example? Then I've got money in the bank account, cash is king, and then I can take an opportunistic purchase down, end of the year or next year. I'm just painting the picture in all different ways.
Yep, it's really good advice, and I guess it's also a case by case. But what the message you're getting across, if I'm taking this the right way, is that just do it for the right reasons at the moment. Like do it for your reasons.
Yes, that's right. So if you thought, I need that, there's always talk of the wants and the needs. We're back into the needs and the wants. So I want that beautiful big home. I've got a $3.5 million one in Pullenvale, which is like it's like the Desperate Housewives house that the wife will get to have as the jewel, and she'll be able to show all her friends. It's $3.5 million. No, it's not something you buy any day of the week, but that's a want to purchase. And we had one in Belbarry for the group. Leo Liu sold cash unconditional for over $3 million last week. Cash is in the market. Like that's great validations, signs of seeing that it's not an overseas buyer, not the Chinese we call it buyer, or one I had on my database. This was a new inquiry, and it just came in red hot, and it was a cash. So what is that? For me, there's a wider economic shift here of people, expats coming back to Australia because they're not comfortable with how things were managed wherever they were with COVID. They think Australia is better. let's get back home and safe and sound. Potentially, we're hearing a lot of that message, and maybe overseas money in other countries because they're wanting to call Australia home and get a piece of land, even more so now because of what potentially how things went down in the last 3-4 months back in their home country. So look, that's my little sort of synopsis of what I feel has been happening. Wider speaking, I don't really subscribe to anything on the media or anything like that. That's just what I'm feeling from the people I speak to.
Yeah, that's super advice. What we might change gears a little bit. In terms of operating, how have you managed to keep the business operating? And then we'll open it up to everyone else to discuss how they've operated through this COVID. So what have you? How have things been different? And can you talk us through how, like the office and how that all works? Yeah.
So Helen and I, because of the limit, initially we were just ourselves. Sort of operating from the office and doing everything digitally with the agents, not putting too much pressure on everyone to have to perform. It was more a case, let's just get through it. Our CEO went through all the offices and had conversations about that with all the principals. Okay, let's just get through, the next 3 months, we don't know what's going to happen, bunker up. So that was the first reaction. And then we realized, hey, hang on, it's actually doesn't change much for us. We still got stock. People want to see stock. They're inquiring on stock. I put a property to market, and so Helen's actually done phenomenally well in the last few months. She's potentially doubled what she had last year. So you know what I mean? Like I think it's different for everyone. Our office is back to normal now, but business as usual in the unusual way, just adapting to the guidelines, being really abreast to what that meant for our community and for the people that we had to engage with. That's probably the biggest thing for us. Not as well as for me, like we're working with like with Gita, like with my accountant in regards to understanding what's out there I had to let go of staff, at the time, initially I put someone on and then I had to let go of them within a couple of weeks because COVID happened and we're like, what, that's just crazy. So, but we deal with, everyone's dealing with things their own way.
Yeah, that's super good advice. It'd actually be interesting to bring the other experts in. How, like in terms of guys, we'll sort of open up to a bit more of a group discussion in using technology and things like that. How have you found the new paradigm, I guess, of COVID?
It's been quite interesting. The business as usual, or the business as unusual, as I like to say. The fact that all of a sudden, yes, as everyone's saying, the sky was falling, and the world's about to end, and what are we all going to do? So we all packed our bags and went home. But we are adapting. We're in my office, we're all professional people. We all have our own work to do, and we're still performing as we were. It has been quite amazing how easily we've all adapted to this new way of working.
And Geeta, how's the technology side of things worked for you?
Well, we've always been working from home, so it's business as usual all the time. But I like the idea of working from home rather than in a office, in a shop front environment, because of the flexibility it gives me to work as much as or as little as I want and when I want to work. So that comes in quite handy. The switch for me was mostly all the networking events actually went online. So wherever I've chosen to join, I've been in contact with more people on sessions like this during these 5-6 weeks, and I'm certainly hoping that will continue to some level once we get back to the new normal, because you can do a lot more in the time that is available. For some of us, time is a very precious thing, and that 24 hours has to be used as productively as we can, and that way being online and using digital forms have helped quite a bit. And I think I've done a lot more in the last 6 weeks overall as a business than before, when I was a bit more on the road.
Yeah, you're right, Geeta. I was saying earlier that for me to go from Ipswich into Brisbane, which is only a 45-minute hour drive, depending on traffic, for a meeting. By the time I get there, have the meeting, come home, not only have I lost half a day, but I've lost, you know, $80 in parking, plus the fuel, you know, where we can just meet, get the same general outcomes in a forum like this, and it's taken me an hour, not half a day. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. But even just those meetings with other staff, you know, to go from one building to another building, by the time you pack your stuff up and you walk there, you know, you are the efficiencies being gained are quite amazing.
Yep. And I think it also gives us the opportunity to look at the tools that we've been using and what else can we use. So there's more interaction with the tools and finding out what's got what features. I think it's always interesting to try out different new things and learn new things.
I think there's a wider, I talked to my, I'm ex-Suncorp, my wife's at Suncorp Group for about 11 years. I was there 7 years. And I think there's going to be a wider review of you know, facility management, like on a global level. I think this, in my prediction, if I had a crystal ball, the city will be vacant in the next 2 years. Because the companies will realize how much they can save on a P&L by, you know, reducing leasing. Not completely. Not completely. You know, I personally, I have to be somewhere. I am idle hands and I need to be in lounge rooms or in an office environment. I won't work from home properly or effectively. My wife, she's perfect for that. So I think that, you know, the amount of resource that we'll be able to save, you know, and work-life balance that's been achieved right now, seeing even my wife and how she is and how happy she is from just not having to jump on the cattle train every day. And do the grind, you can go walk the dogs. So that's enrichment, you know, balance. I think there's interesting things that are going to come out of this, really positive things, I think, for everyone.
And I think too, there's a flip side of that as well. They've already done a study to calculate how long it would actually take to put people physically back into a building, and it's something like 5 hours. It'd take up to 5 hours for you to get everybody back into your floor because of the limitations. I mean, if you're looking at 2 to 3 people per lift, you know what I mean?
Well,
I
drove over this Jindalee, the bridge there at Centenary, and I looked over to, I think it was the first time in however long I saw traffic.
I know.
I was like, that's not a good, I didn't like seeing that. I don't have to go through it, but I was like, that's the first time I've seen for what, 3-4 months, right? And it's been great for me going in and out of houses and through the streets in the last few months. I've been on the road more, just as much as anything, and not having to deal with traffic. So, we've got a question, Pete.
Yep, fire away.
Yeah. So I'll go for it, Antoine. You've got a question, I think, for Chris. Is that right?
I do indeed. Good morning, everyone. Chris, just a quick one. What would be the best way to approach an agency to do business with? We're a business local to the Springfield area, and we provide settlement gifts as well as smaller touch points, anniversary gifts, to continue the relationship with new and existing homeowners. Any tips?
Yeah, look, I love this stuff, and I had someone contact me about this last week. Something similar: how to engage. You have to impress, and you know, we're inundated with stuff, and people walking to my door asking for stuff. For me, it's give, then ask for something in return. And I think if you can impress, get a gold envelope, personally message it for Kurt Coburn, the principal of the business. A nice box. He'll open it up. He'll put it on Instagram. He will talk about it. He'll be like, wow. Who is this? Who are these guys? Give you a call, shout out. He's big on Instagram. We're all about that. You know, that's where he gets his business. You got to stroke that ego, so to speak, and acknowledge who that. I want that time. I want that time in that person's calendar, but I got to give you something first. I think, and make that message have a custom letter that you've addressed to him, Kurt Coburn, as the principal, and then obviously have that attached to an example of your gift. But don't sell yourself in that letter. You know, hi Kurt, love what you're doing. You know, and resonate that you're a local business as well. Love what you're doing for this community. Would love to catch up sometime. Here's something, to enjoy. Something as simple, as delicate as that. And I think it's like, hey, I'm giving to you, and then leave yourself open to receive a call. That would be what would get to me.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
That's some good advice. Andrea, over to you with questions. Are there questions in the chat that have popped up?
No. Look, Antoine was pretty much nailed it with his one, and I think everyone's frantically writing notes. If the truth be honest.
Yeah, it's been really good. Hey, Chris, before I forget, I
Sure.
forgot to say how do we get in contact with you, which is the dumbest thing for a host not to do with a real estate agent. So can you just explain how, if someone is interested?
Absolutely. Look, and this is general advice on when you're researching someone. I would always recommend call up on one of their properties as a buyer. If you're looking to do something, you're looking to sell, obviously if you're looking to buy, you're going to inquire on the property, but if you're looking to sell, be a buyer, because you want to understand how that agent acts and responds to you as when you're not there, which is a buyer. And send an email about just email, see how long they take to respond. You would be amazed and it's how horrendous the rate is of response on real estate.com inquiries. Imagine if you're going to appoint someone, you send them an email inquiry and they didn't respond to that inquiry ever, which has happened, or within a day. Like, your response rate should be within hours, no matter what day of the week. So qualify them and interview them that way.
Wow.
Look at their stock online. If you Google me, Chris Fernando, you'll see NG Platinum, you'll see my real estate.com profile with the same as any other agency in Australia or agent. So you can go and see what they've sold. Are they telling you the truth? Did they actually sell 20 properties in the last 12 months? Have they sold in Middle Park, or have they sold in Indooroopilly? Is that actually information real? So, because we're just probably more so than any other industry, we're full of a lot of crap. We've got agents that just spin the tails, and we're really Helen and I, we're really trying to undo that. We want to be genuine people, upfront, professional, and get rid of all those time wasters and the people that just want to drive the Beamers and wear the flash suit. But yeah, you can Google me, or you've got my business card right here. Just take a screenshot. Come and see me in Jindalee on the corner of Kurragundee and Narrabri.
Yeah, we'll put your details in the show notes underneath as well, which is fantastic. It's been refreshing talking to you, Chris. And I hadn't really followed the real estate market that strongly. I figured, there'd be a bit of people that would be, on the wait and see. But I knew deals still have to happen. Like, if you need to move or relocate, you got to sell. Like,
absolutely,
business is still happening. Yeah.
Like, for me, I don't want to take up too much time, but I turned off general. I haven't watched free to wear in the last 3 months. I turned it off because I felt disgusted when I wake up and I would see all this junk. And it's been the healthiest thing I've done, honestly, because we just get polluted with all the crap. Just live your own life. Follow the people you trust, and that's been amazing. I think in the last, and look at what Corona was suspected to be, but it didn't actually be, and we've talked about that quite extensively.
Yeah, really good advice, Chris. My policy is, if it's a big enough news story, I'll find out about it, and if not, I don't really need to know. So I literally turned off the news service 20 years ago. And I'm being serious, because I used to work in ski resorts, and I'd come out from 6 months in a ski resort, and people would say, "Did you hear so and so died or passed?" And we had no idea. Like, life goes on. So that's some really good advice there. Geeta and Matthew, we're going to just finish off with just any kind of closing advice or any bits of inspiration for the listeners out there if they're looking to get their accounts in order, or grants, or sell their property. Last chance to share with the listeners. Geeta, we'll kick off with you.
I think it's a good time to be aware of where you are and what you're doing, and then you have control over the decisions rather than the decisions control you or be forced into having to make decisions. So if you're a little bit proactive and looking ahead, it might be a lot more easier to manage your business and your life, and with less stress.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you once again, Geeta, for joining us today. Matthew, over to you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I would suggest that everyone gets on to Ipswich Grant Finder, ipswich.grantguru.com.au. For those people in the Ipswich area, if you're not in the Ipswich area, there is the straight grantsguru.com.au site. Get onto there, have a look at what's available and see whether there is some of that funding that does suit your business and you can leverage off to grow what you do.
Just on that note, there's 56 business grants that are ticked for marketing, startup and establishment worth over 3.5 billion. So I've been playing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's plenty of opportunity out there. And Chris, final thought. Thanks, Chris, for your time today. Final thoughts for the listeners out there if they are thinking of buying or selling.
Go for it. Yeah, just you know, have qualify, you know, the people before you're making the decisions, buying and selling. Make sure that and I'm here for any advice. If someone, I guide a lot of people through the process just for the background as they go through and work with other agents, just to make sure that they are being, you know, treated fairly and equitably. So just, yeah, be confident. It's a good time to buy, definitely, and sell.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, thanks, Chris. Thanks to all our expert panelists today. Andrea, once again, we say it every week, but like, you know,
love it,
mate. Yeah.
I think what's really great,
everyone.
I think what's really great, Peter, is that we bring these people together because they're experts in their individual own fields, which is fantastic. But I actually find that there's a lot of complementary information that gets shared, irrespective of what the feedback, you know, irrespective of where they come from. So it's great. So yeah, who have we got next week? Do we know what's coming up next week?
Next week, we've got a fun-filled, packed show with 3 expert panelists, which I don't have in front of me right now.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I'm getting it for you.
But everyone, so while Andrea is looking that up, if you do want to connect with us at bizmojo.com.au, by all means, visit us online. And we do have a mentoring and support program that would encourage all small business owners to take advantage of. And we reduced our price by 60% during this COVID situation. So it's never been a good time like to buy or sell, to jump on board and maybe get some mentoring support through this, because as you know, Geeta picked out, and Matthew and also Chris, there's no one sort of set answer for anyone out there. So it's really about understanding where are you, where do you need to be, and who do you need to go to get some help to make that happen. Yeah.
So next week we've got Meg Hooper from Carousel Consulting, Tom Walden from Living the Dream Now. So that's coming from a network marketing background, which I think is going to be a real interesting conversation. And then the third one we've got is Amanda Bullo from Awesome Women in Construction, which is a non-for-profit. So I think that's going to be pretty cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. I don't know if they're going to get over the top of this show, which we're going to have to rate as the best show ever. So thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you to everyone who joined us on the call, and to the listeners out there in YouTube world and also on the blog. So thanks once again. Have a great day. Have a great week. And yeah, we look forward to catching up with everyone once again.
Thanks, Peter and Andrea.
No worries. Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you. See ya.